Okay, so here we are again. We're ready for Module 3. And what we're going to do in Module 3 is work on planning, preparing, visualizing, getting what we want, and then practicing clearing and removing, the beliefs and any blocks that are stopping us from having what we want. Because we've learned we can have what we want, but we have to remove blocks and things that are stopping us. So that scripture in Mark is really good. And then I read just yesterday in Moroni 7:26, where to go? Along the same lines, I just really liked it. Okay. And after that he came, men also were saved by faith in his name, and by faith they become the sons of God. And as surely as Christ liveth, he spake these words unto our fathers, saying, Whatsoever thing ye shall ask the Father in my name, which is good, in faith, believing that ye shall receive, behold, it shall be done unto you. And we find that promise in the scriptures over and over again. If it's something good that we want and we ask with faith and we believe that we can receive it, we can have it. It's kind of like this little formula, right? First, we visualize it, we conceptualize it. Then we pray and we ask God for it. But we have to not just pray and ask, we have to actually believe that we can receive it. And if we ask in faith and we believe that we can receive it, and it's a good thing, God's like, yep, you can have that. Okay, I'll give you that. And if we have this idea that, we can't have these things, then we can't have that promise fulfilled. But as soon as we understand that, no, God wants us to have good things in our life. He wants to bless us. He wants to give us things that make us happy and bring us joy. Then we can have those blessings in our lives. So let me get back to the module. Okay, so let's talk about what you want in your pregnancy, in your birth. And I know you said you're having a hard time visualizing that. So sometimes what's helpful to do is what you don't want and write down everything you don't want, and then you can convert those into what you do want, right? Sometimes it's hard to think, I want a pregnancy that feels good, but it's easy to think, I want a pregnancy that doesn't hurt, right? Or I don't want to have morning sickness. Okay, that's easy to think. I don't want to have morning sickness. So what do you want to have, right? So the first thing we do is list the don'ts. What do you don't want? So then we can convert them into the, what we do wants. So yeah, if you just want to write down, or you can even, you can state them, whatever, but what are the things you don't want?
I don't want pain. I don't want morning sickness. And I want energy and focus. I got to take care of a house and kids.
Right.
And my life can't stop for 9 months.
Right. Yeah, so you don't want your pregnancy to interfere with raising your family, right?
Family, yeah.
Yeah, you don't want your pregnancy to make you feel unhealthy or, remove your energy, etc. So yeah, all of those things are great. And then we can change them to, what we do want. So in day-to-day life, where does pregnancy sometimes interfere with what you're doing?
I'm a lot of times I feel really sick, so I just don't do anything. And if I do eat food, I'm like, don't burn those calories because then I'll have to eat more. And so I'll just relax instead of like getting things done. I'm also homeschooling my little kid. So a lot of times I don't have the energy or the focus to even deal with it. I'm like, whatever, we'll just do it tomorrow.
Right.
Rather than focusing and getting it done like it needs to get done.
Yeah. So it's interfering with your routine. It's interfering
Yes.
with your child's schooling. It's interfering with your nutrition because you're
Yes.
eating the way you want to be eating because you're like, oh no, I don't want to, like, I don't want to be
Yes.
sick or whatever. Um, so, and then it's just interfering with like your mental capacity because you feel like overwhelmed at the thought of doing stuff.
Yep. Basically summed it right up.
And so when those things are occurring, it's hard to even think like, what would it be like if that wasn't happening? Well, I just want everything to be normal, but we can't think of it in the terms of like just normal. We have to be specific, you know. Okay, I don't want it to interfere with this, with my schedule. I don't want all these things. Then we think, what do I want? I want, like you said, I want to have energy. I want to have clarity. I want to have focus. I want to be healthy. I want to have good nutrition. Um, I want to connect with my children that I already have. I gotta get this light not on a sensor.
Oh.
Oh. My husband's like, oh, we can't have two light switches in this room because of the wiring, so he just put in a sensor. But that means it turns off on me after a little while. Okay, so all of those things that you do want, if you can visualize those, then you can start to see what your pregnancy would look like instead of just like, oh, it's just normal. What is normal, right? What does normal mean? And then you can work towards those things. Then when you think about birth itself, what do you not want in the delivery?
Like I know what I do want. I'm like, I really want it to be a spiritual experience. In my past pregnancies, it was so chaotic, and it was just I got to the point where I was like, just leave the door open, like just whoever wants to come in can come in, kind of thing, because there was so much going on. And I just thought this time around, I want it to be more special. I want it to be bonding, and I want it to be not focused on the pain. When
Yeah,
you have pain, like that takes away from the experience. I want to be able to enjoy it.
right, right,
And I want it to be between me, my husband, and the baby, like not everybody else in the room.
right, right.
So,
Yeah, it doesn't feel personal. And one of the things I learned in, natural birthing is that you, just like you have sphincters that, to go to the bathroom, um, and you can like stop going to the bathroom, or, you can even stop. You don't want to pass gas in public, you can stop that. you know, might cause some pain sometimes, it just slips out. You can't stop having a baby forever, but a lot of times, women are halted, their labor is stopped, they get to the hospital, and then, oh, my labor's not, I'm not in labor anymore. It just, contractions went away because they don't feel comfortable there. They can't relax and just, open up and let everything come out, right? And that's those sphincters are like, oh no, 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 we're not going to relax and open, and that hurts. Just like it hurts to stop yourself from going to the bathroom, trying to hold it in, like, oh, I gotta go to the bathroom, but I can't till I find a bathroom or till whatever. it hurts, and it hurts a lot more when you're trying to hold a baby in. Even if mentally you're not trying to hold a baby in, if your body is not relaxed enough, because it doesn't feel private, it doesn't feel, like I can relax. And you know, if you have all these people around, you don't know them, you're not comfortable with them, eventually the baby's going to come, but it's not going to be such an easy experience, and it is going to, you may need an epidural to even relax, right? And that definitely happened with me with my first. I was in labor from like, they induced me Thursday night. I didn't have the baby till Friday night, so it's like 20 more than 24 hours. And I ended up having an epidural about an hour and a half or something before the baby came,
Wow.
because I was just like exhausted. Of course, in the hospital, they don't let you eat anything. I had no energy. So,
No, right?
right. So
That's the
it was
worst thing to do to a woman. I'm like,
I
that
know,
is so awful.
don't eat anything. You can't eat anything. I was just like, oh man, how much longer? And the doctor's like, well, you're at a 7, so it could be, 15 minutes or 2 more hours. And I'm like, okay, give me an epidural.
Nah.
The baby was face up. So he's like hitting my pelvic bone with every
Oh,
contraction. And once I got an epidural and relaxed, baby flipped. And then I was able to
wow.
get him out. But I wasn't able to relax. It was my first time. Everyone told me to expect the worst pain of my life. So I'm literally creating the worst pain of my life in my mind. My mom was there, and she had 9 kids, and they were all very painful. So I was like, this is how it just has to be. And there's, teams of nurses coming in and out, probably 20 different people, because I was there so long. You have all these different shifts coming in and
Yeah.
out, different doctors coming in and out. It was just,
That mine was the complete opposite. Everybody told me, I took so many birthing classes and I was like, I'm going to go natural. My body knows what to do. It will be amazing. Did not expect the pain to be like that. My labor only lasts about 7 hours with all of my children. I go really fast. As soon as they break my water, it just happens. But I just was like in such shock that it could be that painful, because I just thought, women do this. I can handle this. It's a natural thing. And so I think when that reality hit that this hurts, and I just held on to every contraction, and I just tensed up, and I just like let me ride out those contractions instead of relaxing and letting it just pass. So I'm like more experienced now. I hope that I know what to do, but I'm afraid, like you talked about memory sickness, and I'm like, sometimes when you get in those moments, you just react, like you
yeah,
said, just naturally to your past experience.
yes.
And so I need to make sure that I don't do that.
Like, clear all of that ahead of time. You have to clear all of that ahead of time. And I really did like birth rehearsals, basically.
Okay.
I would just kind of rehearse it all in my mind, and any fear that came up, and any memory of any pain, I was like, oh, I've got to clear this. This is coming up big, and I knew it would come up in the actual birth if
Okay.
I didn't clear it ahead of time. So a lot of stuff was held in my back where the epidural was. Like, I felt a lot
Yeah.
of pain in my back. Um, as soon as I would start
I
thinking
never
about birth, bam, that spot would hurt me so much.
It's a weak spot. Yeah.
That-
I feel too.
And I think that's because that's where, our trapped emotions and other things go, is to those weak spots. So they're energetically being stored there. So releasing them from that area, like my back would start to hurt, like really, it would really start to hurt. And I go, like, what's going on? What do I got to find? What do I have to clear for this to not hurt anymore? So Yeah, rehearsing it, going through, playing it out, imagining, worst case scenario, let that play out so you don't freak out and actually manifest the worst case scenario. You've already thought it through, you've already released that, let that go, instead of like, no, that's too bad, I'm not even going to think about that. um, then it just keeps knocking at your door and going, Holly, think about this, don't forget to think about this, it's really scary. It's okay to go, okay, worst case scenario, I bleed out and I die and the baby dies, like worst case scenario, right? Like everything goes bad. The whole hospital catches on fire and whatever. Like it's okay to think the worst case scenario. And then you go, well, that's silly. And your brain's like, oh yeah, that's silly. And it, kind of releases. But if you won't even consider it, because no, I don't even want to go there, then it keeps coming back and can actually play out. I mean, you probably wouldn't get the worst case scenario, but it can actually come into effect in your labor, is that you actually do have really bad pain or whatever because you were pushing it away, and I'm not even going to think about it. I'm not even going to consider that possibility.
Sometimes when I do that, I'm afraid to think about it because I'm afraid that will become my belief. So I don't even want to think about it because I'm like, I don't want that to become my belief.
Right.
So I just keep ignoring it. But if I follow it through, then I can acknowledge that if that does happen, I'll deal with it. Or I don't know. So you're saying I can let it go as soon as I acknowledge it.
Right. You can acknowledge it. You can think it all out, go follow it all the way through, think it all out, and then release that, right? Okay, that's not part of my birth story.
Right.
And release that instead of that being like this little nagging fear at the back of your mind, like, what if my birth story turns into this?
Yeah. So that's what I was doing this morning. I didn't even want to follow it through because I thought, no, I'm saying that I do have a fear and I don't have a fear. I cleared it, and I didn't want to. But if I just follow it all the way through, then I can actually clear it a whole lot faster than having to be so sick.
Right. And if we tell ourselves like, oh, I don't have this fear, like that also is contradictory because we do, right? If it's coming up, we do have that fear. And we have to not just pretend that it's not there. We have to say, why do I have this fear? What's it coming from? Oh, it's coming from past trauma. Oh, it's coming from a story I heard. Oh, it's coming from, whatever. Follow that, figure out where it's coming from, then you can release it. And once you've released it, it doesn't come up anymore. So you don't ever have to really tell yourself like, no, I don't have that fear. No, that's not going to happen. Like if it's coming up and you're thinking about it and you're afraid of it, then you've got to clear it. So fears are good in the sense that they remind us that there's an issue to take care of. And if we don't remember that there's an issue to take care of, then we go in naively thinking, this is great, I can just know it's going to be fine. And then we're like, oh my gosh, this is not, what, this is really bad. So, yeah, like go ahead and think through all those fears, acknowledge every single one. If it comes, it's real. You do have it. Why? And then how can I clear that? So really good points. Okay, so when those negative energies come, how do we clear them? There's infinite ways to clear them. You could clear them through foot zoning. You could clear them through breathing. You could clear them through any kind of kinesthetic release that you want. Scribbling, dancing. I'm gonna go on a jog and release these through running. When I take a shower, I'm going to release this. As I'm folding the laundry, I am releasing these fears. However you want to do it, you can. But the most important thing is the mental work in it. Just setting the intention. The intention is what is the most important, like the key thing. So if you're like, oh, okay, I'm just gonna like fold laundry and all my problems are gonna go away because I folded all day. Did you set the intention that, you know, this specific thing would happen, right? We can't just like think to ourselves like, well, I'll just, you know, wash a lot of dishes or fold a lot of laundry or whatever. Like that is a way you could release things, but only if you set that intention that that is releasing it. And you have to
How
be
do you set, how do you set the intention?
so, for example, if I knew I had a fear that my husband would be working and wouldn't be there during the birth, then I'd go into labor. And when I go into labor, I have about an hour to 2 hours for my births. Sometimes it's been longer, but most often it's just a couple hours. And so I have a couple hours, and so that fear is real, that like I go into labor and my husband is working and he can't get home because he usually works about an hour away. And so, you know, it's like I'd just be delivering this baby alone, which isn't as much of a fear now because I've thought it all through, and I'm like, I could catch the baby. Like, it's not like I could do that. It's not so scary. But if that was my fear and I recognized that, then I could say, okay, what's the root of this? Where's it coming from? You know, think it all through. All right, is it ready to release? Yeah, it's ready to release. So now I'm going to release that fear. Maybe I found 5 or 6 fears. Okay, I'm just going to release those fears as I fold the laundry. That is my release. You know, I'm just going to let those go. The movements of, you know, folding things are releasing that. Or the movement of scrubbing the dishes, or I'm just going to shower and that water is just going to wash those fears away. It's all mental, like really. So it doesn't matter how you do it as long as you actually
So,
take action, right?
right. Like when I scribble, sometimes, like you talked about like visualizing the negative ball of energy ending up on the page. And a lot of times, like I think that, and then I, for some reason, sometimes have to believe that I have to focus so hard that I'm letting it all out, that I can't be distracted by other things. And then if I am, then it's not letting it all out.
Yeah.
And but you're saying once when I set it, it's set, and I don't need to sit
Yeah.
there and focus on those
Right.
actions every moment.
Yeah. You don't, if you've set that intention, if
That's the
in your
goal
mind,
in me.
right, if in your mind your intention is it only works if I'm focused on it, then it only works if you're focused on it.
I know, because it's a role.
Right? But if you set the intention that I can just mindlessly scribble, I can just sit down and watch a show with my kid, you know, we're watching Tea Moomy Zoomy and mommy's scribbling, whatever, like that's like it can work that way too. But if you think, no, I have to be in a quiet room all alone just focusing on this paper, then that's how it's going to work, right? So you have to, because your subconscious does, it sets like rules for yourself, and it says, oh no, you didn't follow this rule exactly. But that's, you know, you can control that just by
Right.
setting a new rule for yourself. So yeah.
Okay.
I feel like the only thing that is key is to take some sort of physical step, some
Right.
sort of physical action, which is like in the gospel, Christ commands us to be baptized, right? Why? Because we're taking that physical step, and it's an outward showing of our inward conversion. And does baptism do you any good if inside you have no intentions of following Christ? No, it's just simply an action. It didn't really make a difference in your life if you didn't actually put, you know, the mental and spiritual and physical all together, right? So whether you breathe it out or run a magnet over your head or dance it out or scribble it out, it doesn't matter, as long as that's the intention is, you know, connected to the action.
Okay.
Yeah, good question. All right, so manifesting your dream pregnancy, like how we manifest it. First, we've got to take care of all these fears and things that are coming up, the worries, the past traumas, the sickness memories, all that kind of stuff. Then we have to take some actions. It's good to actually get some visuals, get some images in your mind, even on, like, make a file that like a video that plays on your phone or whatever. You could have peaceful images you like to look at that connect you to specific aspects of pregnancy, of birth. Like maybe you have a watch or a beautiful clock, and that reminds you that, you know, God's timing will all work out. Everything's going to be at the right time in the right place. You know, you just connect your mental desires to these images, right? And that's super helpful. I don't know why, but it's just how humans work. Like, we have to have some kind of a visual connection to things. Then like auditory stimulation, so things we can hear, so music that relaxes us. We pick some music or maybe some whole healing tones or a meditation or whatever that we think, okay, when I hear this, then I can relax. Or when this song comes on, I get excited about my birth. When this music plays, I am at peace and I feel, you know, all of my sicknesses or whatever, morning sickness just melts away. We can set those intentions and then like establish, you could call them triggers, right? But we don't really want to think of them in a negative context, but it's doing the same thing, right? It's triggering something to happen in your body. If we can have negative triggers, we can have positive triggers. So those auditory things, they are helping us to, like, pin this, pin that, pin this, you know, and then every time that this happens, anytime I see this image, this is what occurs in my body. Anytime I hear this song, this is what occurs in my body, etc. And those really help. Tactile things, you know, you can have like, when I drink a glass of water, then I remember, you know, that my baby is floating inside me in water and I feel connected to my baby. We can set those mental connections to physical things. All five senses, you know, you could, when I smell this, you know, when I smell a fresh towel, then I think of wrapping my new baby up in a warm, fresh towel, whatever, you know, just doesn't matter what it is. You can just set those, I can't even think of the word, but you can set those intentions to, this is going to key this response in me. And that's super helpful in getting through everything and in receiving what we desire. Do we have to actually wrap our baby in a towel when they come out? No. Like, if we have something else, or we use a receiving blanket or whatever, it doesn't matter. It's just helping us to get that imagery and that visualization and to feel connected and you know, set a course that we want to head in that direction. So that all of that kind of helps us to manifest what we want. Then speaking in that verbiage and actually moving, taking steps as if it's already occurred, right? That, thanking in our prayers, thanking God as if it's already occurred, instead of like, please bless that my pregnancy will be good, that I won't have morning sickness, and that I won't have any pain. Where we instead could pray, thank you that I had a beautiful pregnancy. Thank you for the beautiful pregnancy I've experienced that felt good, that was exciting, that was everything I desired. Thank you,
Why?
baby, that you have given me, right?
Like, but why talk in future tense when it hasn't occurred yet?
Because it has occurred somewhere in time, right?
Okay.
And
Okay.
if we're talking in that tense and we're expressing gratitude as if it's already happened, we're moving closer to that place in time where
Okay.
it happened.
I can see that.
So, I mean, I'm not saying you always have to do that, but that is something that people do, and it helps them manifest things easier. It helps them to receive what they want because they have already, it's already happened. In their mind, it's already happened. They've already played it out so many times that it's super real. It's like you watch a movie and you're like, oh yeah, that happened, even though none of that happened. That was all just acting. But it seemed like it happened. If you're watching that movie of your birth and your pregnancy in your mind, and it becomes so real that it's like, yeah, that already happened.
So it's basically training your mind and body to just do what already happened,
Right.
kind of, in a sense.
Yeah.
You're just basically creating it, and then you actually, so when it does occur, your body's going through the steps of what already happened.
Yes. Perfect. So
Okay.
in the Pearl of Great Price, in Moses and Abraham and stuff, when you're reading about the creation of the world in Genesis, God created everything spiritually first, right? Everything was created spiritually first. And then he created everything physically.
Basically.
But it was like it already happened before he actually
Okay.
physically sent Adam or Michael and Jehovah down to do the actual physical work.
Right.
It was already all created. It was already all mapped out. It was already all planned. And then, and it's interesting because in Moses we read that, and this was like new to me. I'm like, wait, what? Oh my gosh. Moses was on the earth first. Okay, so like the days of the creation, what we mark as the days of creation, Adam comes last. So the last step. That's the spiritual creation. But in Moses, it makes very clear that Adam wasn't necessarily the first step because the earth had to be formed and light and darkness and whatever. But he was the first flesh on the earth. And then God sent the animals and the all of the insects and all that. He was the first flesh on the earth, and then he helped create and name those things. And so it's interesting because you're like, wait, what? Like, that's so confusing. I thought like there was just all these animals wandering around as soon as Adam woke up. But no, God, things are created in a different order than spiritually than they physically sometimes happen, right? So you could create this perfect birth and it could happen, physically after in a different order than you spiritually created it, right? So it's there, it's created, it's going to happen. It's just how you actually, take the steps to manifest it, to make it happen. And if you don't take any action and you just expect it to happen, to come to you, Well,
Doesn't.
that's a nice thought, but it
Yeah,
didn't work, right?
it didn't work.
It didn't work. And that was the same thing that happened for me. The first time I had a baby at the birth center, it hurt. It didn't work. Like I was gonna, it was gonna be great this time. And it was fast. It was really fast. That was great. But baby literally came out 10 minutes after I got to the birth center. I waited at home too long. I thought I had a lot more time. I was like, I don't know. I think this is probably labor. Okay, I'm pretty sure this is labor. Okay, we better go drop the kids off. Okay, we gotta get to town. If we would have hit a few more red lights, baby probably would have been born in the car. So, but that fear of like not getting to the birth center on time was driving most of the pain. By the time I actually got to the birth center and baby came out, most of the pain had already been experienced. Like, the baby was coming out so fast. I flopped over the bed. They pulled my pants off and they're like, "Oh, there's baby's head." Baby was already coming out. So I didn't really have time to even think about pain and stuff. I was just like, what's happening? This is crazy. So the pain was on the drive to the birth center because I was so scared. And as I've learned to control those fears, like, so I have a baby on the side of the road. It's happened before. It's not the end of the world. Things will be okay. If I've followed those fears and let them go, then I don't have that. But I didn't do anything. I just read some books and went to the birth center to have a baby, and that's it's gonna be great. Like, okay, I got to take some more steps and some more action for that to be what occurs. Oh, come on, light, stay on. So that is pretty much all there is to it. Really is just working through those things, writing down, noting. It's mental work, it's some physical work because you do have to do some release, writing, noting, but it's not nearly as hard as going through a pregnancy with pain and suffering and morning sickness and all of that. Like, I'd much rather do some mental work and some physical work to clear it than lay on the couch for months miserable, right? So it's not easy in that mental sense, but it is easy in a physical sense. It's really not. It's not as hard as running a marathon. And lots of people train to run marathons all the time. They've run more marathons than they've had children, right? And I can't say that because I've never run a marathon and I have 8 kids. But I have run miles, and I've run a lot more miles than children. So, yeah. There are other resources, right? Like nutrition is key. Eating really healthy and paying attention to ingredients. There are things that toxins, ridding our home of toxins, those kinds of things. All of that makes pregnancy a lot easier. I have been studying from the medical medium, and I'm just in awe of some of the toxins that are in our environment that we don't even think about. He said that if you have a Glade plug-in in your house, and that you have that going all the time, he was like, you'd be better off smoking a pack of cigarettes every day. And I'm like, what? Not that I have one, which I'm really glad, but I had one once. Somebody gave me them when I first got married, and I had one in my house, and it wasn't like within 24 hours, my whole body was covered in hives. And then I left my house and it went away. I came home and immediately my body was covered in hives. And I was like, it's that, my intuition was like, it's that Glade plug-in. So I went and I took it out of the house and I got rid of it. And, I haven't experienced that since. So thankfully my body let me know how toxic that was, but I didn't realize it was as toxic as smoking a pack of cigarettes a day. He's like, all those little oils and fragrances and things that are floating in the air, they're getting in our lungs and they don't get out of our lungs. You can't just like clean them out. You can't just go in and like wash that out with soap. Like, it's in there, and he's like, you might get lung cancer and think, but I never smoked a day in my life. But you had a Glade plug-in in your house for 20 years, right? There's so many things that are toxic that we just don't even realize. And we might have, like I said, we might have somebody spray, what's the word?
Pesticide.
Yeah, pesticides around our home all the time. Maybe they spray in the air in your area for pest control. We might have herbicides all over, people using weed killers and that kind of stuff. All of that, being aware of that, and if you're sensitive to those things, which most of us are, we just don't know we are, they make a big difference. So learning about those and trying to reduce our toxic load is super helpful. Also, detoxing, do some detoxing. And people will say all the time, detoxing is not safe when you're pregnant. And I'm like, that's true in some cases. It depends on how you are detoxing. But I did medical medium detox when I was pregnant. It was fantastic. My midwife had no problem with me doing it, because how you're detoxing is just changing how you eat, right? You're not taking some crazy supplement. You're not starving yourself. You're drinking celery juice. You're drinking lemon water. You're putting cilantro and spirulina and, algae into your smoothies, etc. You're basically loading yourself up with nutrition and things that draw out toxins, but safely through, your normal process. You're not just, going to an infrared sauna for hours or whatever. Like, yeah, some of those things can be. And some of the supplements and detoxing things, first of all, I don't necessarily think they work that well, and second, they aren't safe for pregnancy. But if you are doing a detox that is adding in nutrition to your body, like, that is not going to harm your baby.
Right.
If anything, it's going to bless your baby. Wow, look at all these great nutrients I have to build my little body with, right? So that is a great resource. Reducing toxins and then detoxing. Nutrition, being really strong on nutrition, knowing what your body needs. Fruits and vegetables should be the bulk of our nutrients. We can have grains, we could have meat, we can have, some of those things, but they need to be not the bulk of our nutrition. The bulk of our nutrition, especially, we should avoid, refined, processed grains, starches, sugars, whatever. And, you can have honey, you can have pure maple syrup. You don't have to like never eat sweets again and stuff, but avoid all of those, high fructose corn syrup and aspartame and all of that, highly processed garbage. And then, avoiding anything that's full of hormones and that's been fed garbage, corn and soy and stuff. Like, if you're eating meat, make sure it's not meat full of, glyphosate from, like, oh, we're going to feed these cows or these pigs or these chickens all this grain that's full of corn and soy and whatever. And then, yeah, avoiding dairy, same thing. dairy just causes lots of inflammation in our bodies. It causes lots of, it's a place that holds a lot of toxins from whatever animals, they got it from. I feel like if you raised your own cows and you knew what they were eating, and you knew they were just eating fresh things, and they weren't being injected with hormones, they weren't, even some people are like, oh, it's grass fed. Yeah, but was that grass treated with, pesticides or herbicides or whatever? Like, we don't know. It just says organic and grass fed, but did we raise it? Do we know how it is? So avoiding dairy because of those reasons. And people will go, well, then how do you get your calcium? We don't even absorb calcium through dairy. Like, our body cannot absorb it in that state without, breaking down and using some of our bones and our minerals. So we demineralize our teeth, our bones, whatever, to break down the dairy the calcium that we get from dairy. So it's much more effective to get our calcium through fruits and vegetables, things like broccoli, super high in calcium, right? Like, you don't have to get your calcium through butter, cheese, milk, that kind of stuff. You can run like the Healy for issues. You could take homeopathic things that help with, if you're suffering from like cystic acne or something that comes during pregnancy, there's homeopathic remedies for that. Or you could run the Healy for that, or changing your diet will probably eliminate that. There's books, tons and tons of books that we can read and study to prepare for and to understand these concepts so that we can actually implement them. So there's resources available to us, and I want people to know, like, you don't just like, okay, I'm just gonna not have morning sickness anymore, I'm gonna think it all through. Like, it really helps to utilize the resources, helps to remove toxins, to change our diet, to read some books, to utilize things that are given to us, drink some teas, help our systems. Like, I actually don't recommend prenatals at all. For years I took prenatals because I thought, oh, I'm doing good for my baby, this is good, I'm gonna have a healthy pregnancy, my baby's gonna be so great, because I'm taking these prenatals. But what the truth about prenatals is, we have no idea what our bodies need, right? What amount, because every single woman is different. You might need, a small percentage of magnesium while somebody else is sorely lacking in magnesium. You might be anemic and somebody else has tons of iron. And so when we take these prenatals with this standard, this is what we need, every pregnant woman needs all these things. Sometimes we're literally poisoning our body by getting too many nutrients in one area, and then we're starving in another area because we're not getting enough nutrients in that. So a standard prenatal is just not good. Plus, it's very hard to find a prenatal that is not synthetic, that's actual naturally derived. And so I highly recommend getting your nutrients through foods. You can get, extra supplements, things that you put into your food, but not synthetic, not, like, maybe you don't want to eat mushrooms because you don't like them, but you could get like a mushroom powder that you added into a smoothie or that kind of thing. So when I'm talking about supplements, I'm talking about things that do give you vitamins and nutrients, but they're not synthetic. It's not like, I'm just taking this synthetic vitamin B, I'm just adding this synthetic vitamin D. We don't want to add in those kinds of things. So changing, like, paying attention to how we are feeding our bodies is really, really key, because yes, a lot of times our morning sickness stems from nutrient deficiencies, but just taking a prenatal and being like, I don't have nutrient deficiencies because I take my prenatal every day. That doesn't guarantee anything, and it could be causing your problem. A lot of women report, I feel sick and I want to throw up after taking my prenatals. Yeah, that's not surprising. So just, understanding, being aware of those things, it really helps. I highly, highly, highly recommend reading Ina May's Guide to Childbirth by Ina May Gaskin. That book is super helpful for any woman who wants a natural childbirth and who wants to have a birth that is not painful, because you can, and she gives lots of examples of women who have had it, and then talks about the mindset, and it's just like an overall book that's fantastic. When I first had kids, people were like, oh, you need this book, and several people gave me copies of What to Expect When You're Expecting. I've totally chucked that book. I'm like, that's the worst advice anyone ever gave me, because yeah, that is exactly what to expect when you're expecting. If you go the mainstream route, expect to have pain, expect to have an epidural, expect to have, all of these checkups, expect them to ask you to vaccinate your baby, expect to go in every 2 months to get your baby vaxxed and checked and blah, blah, blah. I don't do any of that. So why would I need that book? I threw the old book out and was like, no, thank you. It set me up for failure. It wasn't what I wanted, but it was what I expected, and it's what I got. And that's not what I wanted. So Ina May's book, it goes over the anatomy. It goes over what your body is naturally trying to do. It explains how to, relax into it, how to bring your partner into it, to help have his support, etc. And it's just fantastic. So that's my number one book recommendation for pregnancy. Any other resources that we need, that we want to have, I feel like will come to us as we need them, as we search them out, as we ask, hey, I'm wondering about this topic. Something will come up, somebody will suggest something, and we'll go, oh yeah, okay. My second book recommendation, I could give tons, but I'm only going to give two. Ina May's book, and then Supernatural Childbirth, because that book, it doesn't talk a lot about anatomy or anything like that. It just talks about understanding God's word and applying it into our lives, and allowing ourselves to believe, I can do this without pain and suffering, because I don't have to suffer. I don't have to have pain. And it just kind of opens your eyes. It actually helped me understand the atonement of Jesus Christ better through, some of the things they talked about, like God's word and how it's fulfilled, and ways we can release and let go and change our thought process. So those are two fantastic resources. Anything else is, like I said, it's just gonna come to you. You're gonna know when you need it. You're going to receive it, because you're manifesting what you desire, in the universe, God, however you want to, whatever you want to call it, is going to send you that. It's going to be there, because it's like, Holly needs this. And you're going to cross paths with somebody who says, hey, have you tried this? Or have you heard about that? Or in my pregnancy, blah, blah, blah. Oh, I need that, right? So I don't want to give it an endless, exhaustive list of resources, because I feel like they'll come to you when you need them. But practicing on yourself, anytime things come up, practice releasing them. Do you have a past trauma? You'll know you have a past trauma if you think about it. Like, if you talk about it. And I've like realized, I'm going, oh yeah, that reminds me of this experience I had when I was a kid. And I'm like, I probably need to release that. If you're thinking, oh my gosh, this pregnancy, and let me tell you my horror stories of this pregnancy, you probably need to release those horror stories, right? Not that they're gone and you never talk about them again, but if you haven't cleared them and worked on them, they're probably still nagging at you and saying, hey, release me. Or they may replay through like a sickness memory kind of thing in your pregnancy experience, and you don't want them to. So without actually releasing them, they're going to keep coming up, and you're going to keep thinking about them, and you're going to keep fearing them, etc. And that is your key. This needs to be cleared. This needs to be released. So working through those things, that's, to me, that's it. That's all you've got to do to have the birth and pregnancy that you desire. And don't be afraid to, like you said, to keep working on it, and to expect, like, there's going to be a long process. Like, oh my gosh, I did all 3 modules, I watched all 3 modules, and I still have some morning sickness. Like, okay, what is your body telling you? What still needs to be released? It's giving you that as it's not the nicest reminder, but it's a little nudge. It's a little reminder, hey, work on this. And as humans, we're sometimes lazy. If everything felt good, we wouldn't bother doing anything. We wouldn't bother working on it and clearing it and releasing it. And then we'd be surprised when everything didn't play out the way we wanted it to, because we didn't clear what we needed to clear. So we get those gentle or not so gentle reminders that, hey, you still have something to work on, and you'll feel sick. That happened to my sister. She was 30 weeks and she started getting morning sickness, and she never got morning sickness past like 13, 14 weeks, right? So she's going, what the heck? She thought for sure she just had some kind of flu, but no one in her family had anything, it was just her. And so then she thought like maybe food poisoning, but everyone had eaten the same things. And she's like, can you work on this? So I'm working on it, and I'm like, oh, it's morning sickness. She's like, what? I'm 30 weeks. It can't be morning sickness. And I'm like, well, it's coming up as morning sickness. And she just had a disconnection with baby, and we cleared that. Her morning sickness went away. So, something had to be fixed so that she got that little reminder. And unfortunately, because she thought it was just like a flu, she was trying to wait it out, and it was not. She's like, I've been sick for like a week. What's going on? Because usually if you have a flu, it's like 1 or 2 days of feeling nauseous and throwing up, not a week. So yeah, it can come up later on in pregnancy as that reminder. Fix me. Fix this issue. I'm still here. It's not cleared yet. If it hasn't cleared yet, then it's going to give you a little reminder to do that work. So, questions, comments?
No, I just wish I would have had this information for my other children. I suffered for so long.
Right?
So.
Oh, yeah. I had 6 babies before I learned any of this information, and I'm like, why did I have to go through, like, why couldn't I have learned that on my first? Because there are people who learn that for their first. Yeah. But it's okay. That's part of my journey. And I now have experience, and I can help people. And I'm actually kind of thankful for that journey, because when people say, oh, you're just one of those lucky people that babies, you just have a baby, it doesn't hurt. I'm like, no, that's not true. I know what it's like to have so much pain you think you're going to die. You literally think you're going to die. And then you wish that you would just die. and it would just be gone, right? Like it was that bad. And then to contrast that with what I have now, it's like, oh, okay, you don't have to experience that. I have experienced it, so I can relate to those who think that that's the only way that there is. Oh, well, you don't have pregnancies like I do then. I'm like, don't tell me that, because I did have those pregnancies and those experiences. And I mean, I've never had really, really awful pregnancies where I'm hospitalized or, where I'm on bed rest for the entire time or whatever. But I have had, a pregnancy that is not even close to ideal. And then great, fantastic, ideal pregnancies. And this last time, there was something I had to learn. And I feel like that's why I did have bleeding and I did have, some bed rest and stuff. I learned a lot through those. I gained some experience, and I was able to relate better and have more compassion for people who are miscarrying, for people who are, scared every time they go to the bathroom, they see blood, who are, stuck in bed. Because for someone who is active and wants to be moving all the time and who has lots of little toddlers and stuff running around, bed rest is like torture. It is so, so hard. You're like, it's gonna be fine. I can just, I'll just get up and do this, and then bam, you're bleeding again, and you're like, this isn't fair. So yeah, like there's experiences, and you don't have to have a bad pregnancy to gain those experiences. But sometimes if you're doing everything you know how to do and you're still having these types of experiences, what do you need to learn, right? Instead of looking at it as, well, it's just my lot in life, or God wants me to suffer this, or this is a trial I have to go through, seeing it as like a trial I have to go through, instead of this is a challenge, what am I supposed to learn?
Right.
Then that's going to help you to get through it all the way, start to finish. You might have what you could consider relapses. That's okay. It's a learning experience. You're going to grow. You're going to be more aware, self-aware, like, oh, I have a struggle with change and control, or oh, this thing is triggering me. This thing is difficult for me, and setting up new. Instead of being triggered by this, I'm going to set up a new positive intention. I'm going to set up a new positive connection. And now, instead of being triggered by this thing, I'm going to see this, and this positive thing is going to happen, etc. Getting all of that taken care of. That's the keys to having a pregnancy that you want, to having a pregnancy free of morning sickness, free of other aches and pains. Yeah, like, I mean, your body is, you're gonna have differences. You're not just gonna like breeze through, because it's literally like you sometimes feel like a hippopotamus at the end of your pregnancy, trying to get in and out of bed, or just to turn over in your sleep. But that's okay. Like, it doesn't mean that you've done something wrong or whatever. Like, it's just the nature of your body being off balance with a big belly in the way. That's fine. But if you are seriously experiencing like chronic back pain and, neck issues and that kind of thing, what is your body trying to tell you? Because that's not normal, and that shouldn't be happening. And people will say, that's just normal in pregnancy. No, you don't have to experience chronic back pain. You don't have to suffer. Your hips don't have to pop out. You don't have, like, that's, what do you need to learn? What do you need to change so that you don't have that? So yeah.
I'm excited.
I'm
gonna figure this out.
excited for anyone who takes this journey, because it's beautiful to see the difference. Even if they don't apply everything and they don't get it all right the first time, if they had a better pregnancy than the last one, woohoo! That's fantastic. If they apply it and they get it all right and they have like this perfect birth, that's even more fantastic. But I just love to be able to help people and move them in a direction that's where they want to be, where they really want to go, and to show them this is possible. You can have that. So thank you, Holly.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear, give me feedback on this course. Give me questions that you have. I can help. So
Thank you, Christy.
all right, talk to you later. Bye.
See ya.